The Garfield movie is a 2024 animated comedy film primarily aimed at young kids, which is the new big summer release and even beat out Mad Max Furiosa at the box office. It follows the iconic lasagna-loving and Monday-hitting cartoon cat from the comic strip in a movie where he must reunite with his father, who abandoned him and calls him Junior, steal milk from a farm, and help bring together two cows who have been separated by corporate greed, and the result is a movie that just doesn't work. I really wanted to like Garfield, but it's a primary example of a broken movie where the core idea here just doesn't play out. Garfield, at his essence, is a lazy house cat who loves naps, lasagna, pranking his owner's dog Odie, and hates Mondays, but the film barely utilizes that. And while young kids might like the rush pacing and the fun sense of adventure and comedy, it, as a story, totally feels lacking in cohesion, or there's like any actual plot here. Characters just appear randomly and enter the plot. There's this British cat who serves as the villain, but really doesn't even need to be there. There's this forced drama of Garfield trying to reunite with his father, who appears so quickly in the film we barely get to bask in Garfield's life existing as a house cat. What I'm getting at is this movie feels so rushed that none of what it establishes feels like it carries any weight. So let's get into that today, shall we? Let's explore how the Garfield movie totally fails and how it can be a lot better, and how adapting a comic book strip of a lazy anthropomorphic cat might even prove harder and a bigger challenge than adapting Frank Herbert's Dune. So the Garfield movie is kind of problematic from its opening act. We follow Garfield as a baby who gets left behind by his dad in an alley, and to be honest, the opening is cute and kind of effective. We also see John, who is this lonely guy, and in the comics, Garfield's owner, who's sitting by the window of a pizza restaurant, and he's clearly kind of lonely. He looks longingly at a family and parents and kids, at couples, on a date, and it's just a great way to establish that he's looking for someone. And with us seeing baby Garfield outside lonely looking for food, we see them form a connection. Garfield sneaks into the restaurant and starts to eat John's food, and this opening kind of works. It's cute. It's fun to see this lonely guy who doesn't have anyone from the beginning with this cute cat, even if the cat just wants to eat his food. He adopts the cat and the movie begins. It's only the first 5 minutes, but the movie works pretty well so far. The movie then moves into a montage showing the Garfield that we know, this house cat who is lazy and eats food in the house all day. And I did like this next bit of the movie. We see how he gets along with Odie, the dog who John owns, and how he makes all these sort of crazy food concoctions from John's fridge. And it's fun to watch. And Chris Pratt, honestly, is not that bad as the voice of Garfield. Yeah, he gets a lot of slack, and people, don't like him because, well, Chris Pratt voiced Mario. But he carries this chill laziness in his voice that fits with Garfield's personality. And honestly, watching this quick montage of Garfield's home life, where he seems to live the good life, is great and exemplary of his character. There's a few second-long scenes where we see Garfield has to go to the wash or go to the vet, and he explains this is why he hates Mondays. I do wish the film provided more of this, or utilized Garfield's hatred of Mondays more, maybe even set it up and paid it off later, but it really is just briefly skimmed over in the film. Like I said, the early stuff with seeing how Garfield loves the life of a domestic cat is good. It's just so brief and it ends so quickly, and this is where the film kind of falters. See, the plot doesn't have this natural development. It just kind of rushes you into things. Garfield is at home at his fridge, and no more than 10 minutes into the movie, these two random dogs just appear and kidnap him. It's not even like we get to see how they get into the house. The movie doesn't even have a funny moment where they struggle to get through a kitty door, or a comedic bit of them trying to squeeze through a window. Brett Goldstein and Bowen Yang have some good back and forth riffing in the movie as these two dogs, but it's just not it, and the movie is too convoluted for this to work. So Garfield's kidnapped and brought to this warehouse where we meet Hannah Waddingham's Jinx, this Persian cat who wears this glowing necklace for some unexplained reason, where she explains she's recruited Garfield to help his father, who abandoned him, steal a truck full of milk. And right away, you're going, hold up, who are all these characters and why should we care? Garfield's a lazy house cat, he shouldn't even want to be part of this, and he doesn't, but it's just how he's roped into this plot, that Garfield becomes almost a secondary character in his own story. So we meet Garfield's dad Vic, who's now the driving plot of the story. It's not Garfield, but it's his father, which is a big letdown. And I love Samuel L. Jackson, but getting him to voice the dad is just distracting. I'm sorry, I really do love Samuel Jackson. Just saying, it's a recognizable voice, and something about that took me out of the movie. I kept waiting for him to call Garfield motherfucker, but instead he just called him Junior. So the Persian cat's plan for getting Vic and Garfield to rob milk for her also makes no sense. It really just makes you think too much about it. Like, she wants to make them work together because she thinks they'll hate doing that, and because she's a villain, she enjoys that. But, like, it really just doesn't make any sense. There's no real logical reason for Garfield to team up with his father after all these years to help him steal milk to appease this gangster cat. It just feels incredibly forced. And this is adding in the fact that Garfield's riffing with his dad because he apparently abandoned him as a kid. And then we later learn he didn't actually abandon him, it's all just a big misunderstanding. It's not even like there's any real emotion with this. He just overhears his dad saying, "Oh, I sat in a tree and watched you grow up." And Garfield's like, "Yeah, I don't believe you." And then later in the film, he just finds the tree and sees a bunch of notch marks the dad left, counting the days he was there. And on paper, it sounds pretty emotional, but it's how the movie explains it that doesn't work. Garfield at first thinks he's abandoned again by his father after he leaves him during the milk heist. But Garfield then is narrating to the audience going, "Oh, he didn't leave me. He wanted to be caught, knowing that I would be hurt. And I had been caught, I would be hurt." And then he looks at this tree and he goes, "Oh, my dad was always really here. He's good. Now I must save him." And it's just too easy and explained too clearly for this to feel natural or like there's any emotion invested in it. Garfield just tells us what to feel and we feel it. It just kind of happens. Not to mention, this milk heist just kind of happens randomly. Like, Garfield only goes to rob this milk farm because he gets kidnapped and asked to do it by the cat. He has no goal. He's a lazy house cat. Now he's just doing it because he's being recruited by these two random characters we've never seen before. It's not like he has any drive, which kind of affects the whole plot. If your main character doesn't have a drive that's driving the plot forward, it's boring to watch. No one likes to watch the main character get dragged around by secondary characters. And yeah, Garfield's lazy, but his goal should just be to be lazy. That would make it more fun. Instead, he just goes along with the plot for whatever reason. But the point is, if you're going to have a movie with a main character with these goals of being lazy, hating Mondays, liking lasagna, stick with those goals. Make your character stick with that throughout the film, and you're going to make a character worth watching. Garfield could be a lot better if the character is just bored or sarcastic throughout. Instead, he just seems mildly complacent with everything, and it just kind of throws the whole tone off. Why are we in this journey with him? Why does it matter that this Persian cat wants Garfield to work with his father? Because she wants to see them struggle? Not to mention the fact that she's hardly on screen. It just doesn't function as a consistent plot. Also, John, the owner character of Garfield, is barely in the movie. The film cuts to him a few times, but it's not enough to warrant he's a concerned owner looking for his cat. And I get the movie wants to be simple and quick, in the way Illumination films are simple and quick, but at least those have consistent plots, like with Super Mario Bros. Mario goes to the Mushroom Kingdom and joins this epic plot to stop Bowser and join forces with Princess Peach, all because he wants to find his brother. Like, yeah, there's a lot of elements that are introduced in that movie, but it all functions because it's part of Mario's quest to find Luigi. Reuniting with his brother is the goal. In this, there is no goal. Garfield just goes with his father, who he doesn't really like, because he's forced to go, not because anything's at stake, or John's in danger, or with Odie or anything. And then he just finds out his father actually didn't abandon him. And not just early on, but much later in the film. There isn't any driving force fueling the movie for the first hour. We mostly just go through these series of random events because they're brief gags that carry no weight, and therefore no meaning. Look at the cow, voiced by Ving Rhames, who for some reason sits outside this farm that Garfield is going to rob, where they're keeping his girlfriend, some random female cow, in a petting zoo. We get some backstory about how they took her from him and how he wants her back now, and Garfield has to save this cow to reunite them. But there's no underlying meaning for this, no reason we should care. It's not like this cow was ever introduced earlier. He just kind of comes out of nowhere, so Garfield has a reason to get information from this cow so he can save his girlfriend and get the milk. This cow is just a random character who shows up early in the film. Now we have to save the girlfriend. There's no reason for this, no goal why we should do it. If they don't save the cow, nothing will change. It's not like she's due to be stun-gunned or turned into a hamburger. No, there's no ticking clock. Garfield just needs to save the cow because it's the right thing to do, which is kind of boring. I get it, it's hard to make a simple movie about a house cat who only likes lasagna, naps, and hates Mondays. But you can at least utilize that, or even use the I hate Mondays for a cool scene later in the film. Like I said, the only sequence I truly like is at the end when Garfield has to rescue his dad from a train and calls in a bunch of food drone delivery services to rescue him. It works because it's been set up as Garfield likes food, and it pays off in this rather cool sequence. The whole movie is kind of a mess, all these different characters interacting who really don't mesh at all. And I think the film would just be better if they focused on Garfield and maybe Odie the dog going on some journey to recover something. Like, what if it was a road trip movie where Garfield has his bed stolen by another cat, or his favorite recipe that he wanted to cook for John, and he's going on this journey to get it. Then the story is anchored by Garfield's point of view. It gives him a personal reason to be involved. It doesn't feel so random, it wouldn't feel so unmotivated, and it would have had a great kid story that can feel fast-paced and fun, but also be anchored and have a personality. Sidelining John, Liz the Vet, and other characters definitely hurt the movie. I feel like the movie gets too lost in its sauce. You can make an entertaining kids movie, but you need to remember to have a good story with good side plots, gags, and jokes. This movie has very few of them. If you had a personal bit, like John looking for his cat, John feeling that emotion when he reunites with Garfield, who from the beginning he had this connection with, you'd have a great emotional backstory. And then if you included the other gags and stuff throughout the film that was just consistent, I think Garfield had a chance of being a lot better. Honestly, I would love to see a Garfield road trip movie. I feel like it would be a lot of fun. Just watching Garfield on the road, interacting, trying to find this bed. He's lazy. I like the idea that Garfield's lazy, but willing to do something for this bed or some lasagna recipe. Like, that's interesting, because you want to wonder what makes this lazy cat go after this. Like, it's got to be important. So honestly, I'll leave it at that. I have a lot of reasons why I think the Garfield movie was kind of a critical failure. It was just really boring and could be a lot better. It's very safe. But let me know what you guys think. If you enjoyed Garfield, thank you guys so much for watching.